The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. This is part 2 of a long podcast that we did with Adam Carolla. If you missed part 1, check it out on ESPN.com or iTunes. In part 2, he tells us his new fake movie that he's been working on. Here we go.
I don't know if you saw the last Rock movie, Faster. It is one of these.
I didn't see it.
It's not good. The Rock. It's one of these movies. First off,
By the way, I didn't see it because I saw Billy Bob Thornton's hair, and I was like, no way.
Billy Bob Thornton.
It's a mail-in by him, I could tell.
He was just hammering a check. Like
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton, like, oh, who cares? I'm not even in this. And there should be some kind of weird hair off between Billy Bob Thornton's hair and Nick Cage's hair.
Could John Cusack referee?
I would.
And Jeremy Piven?
I would watch a 24/7 on the making of Billy Bob Thornton's hair, but he's in there. He by the way, his hair is still in Sling Blade, but his face is 30 years older.
Yeah.
But he doesn't care. He's mailing it in. And it's one of these movies where, and they do this all the time, and I don't understand it. It's like cops don't exist. So The Rock gets out of prison, and they killed his whole gang, and they killed his brother, and now he's going to get revenge. And even though the cops are looking for The Rock, and The Rock is driving a Chevelle with a big block and open headers, and by the way, he doesn't go anywhere without peeling out. There's like, whoa, and it's like he's literally driving from L.A. to Vegas at 160 miles an hour in a big block Chevelle, and never gets pulled over. Like,
There might be 7 Chevelles in the country.
at a certain point, he shoots one guy. The guy survives. He's in a hospital. The Rock just pulls the Chevelle up right in front of the ambulance, pulls an e-brake, jumps out, slams her, walks into the hospital, goes up to the 7th floor, shoots the guy, walks back down to the Chevelle that's parked blocking the ambulance entrance. There's no cops, nothing. He shoots a bunch of shots off at the guy, gets into it with Billy Bob Thornton for 20 minutes, then walks back out to Chevelle and peels out again. It's like, where are the cops? I don't understand where the cops are. He just got out of prison. The cops know he has a list of all the guys he has to avenge the death of his brother, and he just drives the loudest car on the planet to their house and shoots them in the face.
6'4", biracial, kind of a striking-looking guy,
Mint green
hugely
Chevelle
muscular.
with open headers. You can't.
I'm going to say you're not mixing them up.
This guy would get pulled over 12 times a day just for driving that car the way he drives the car. Forget about being FBI's most wanted.
Yeah.
He's just driving like an a-hole. So it's an insanely bad movie. I
can't wait to see it.
You have to see it. The thing that's crazy, I was laughing about this. I saw it with Donnie and Mike August. When you're on the road,
right?
You
have this whole life now. You like tour.
You'll watch anything.
Yeah.
Like when you're in Houston and it's a Saturday and the show's at 8 o'clock and it's 11 in the morning and you're sitting around your crappy hotel room and somebody says, hey, there's a Cineplex next door that
you're in.
It's 3 hours of your parents having sex. You want to go? You're like, yeah, I'm in. Like, I don't care. I'll watch it.
Directed by Michael Bay.
Doesn't matter. I'm going. Yeah, like you're so bored you don't know what to do. Yeah. The Rock is driving a Chevelle the entire episode, the entire movie, and there's really no dialogue, and so he has no dialogue.
By the way, this almost sounds like porn for you.
It is pretty solid. You got The Rock, and you got a big block Chevelle.
Just driving scenes.
It's just driving
all you need, really.
But the thing that's funny is somebody must have handed The Rock the script. The script was like 103 pages, and someone said, look, here's your next starring vehicle, except for really the vehicle was the star, ironically. Yeah. But they're like, hey, Rock, your character's name is Tito. Here you go. Here's the script. Go ahead. And The Rock must have been like, he must call his agent like, I'm at page 43. I've not seen any dialogue yet. There's no count the number of times The Rock speaks in the entire movie. Like he gives The Rock a look. He drives
It's like
a car.
a Stallone Cobra
he
performance.
Shoots people. Yeah, it's Cobra-esque, but
Yeah.
he does not talk in this entire film.
Maybe for the best.
Probably. Although I do like The Rock.
I do like him too.
Because I was talking on my podcast, I was interviewing Andy Fickman, who did the one where he played for the Make Believe Patriots,
Kids movie.
the kids movie.
Yeah.
Well, I thought maybe
I was out on all The Rock. My daughter loves the Tooth Fairy.
Oh no, this like the one before the Tooth Fairy, where he finds out he has the daughter. He's the hotshot quarterback. Blah blah blah. Well, the point is this guy directed it, and he said, by the way, The Rock loved The Hammer, saw The Hammer, loved it. So told me how much he loved. Said how boxing movies are always fake and blah blah blah. And he just wanted to tell how much he loved that. He got the movie and told him Fickman to watch it and blah blah blah. So now
you're in on The Rock.
Now
you like anybody who likes anything that you do.
That's how it goes. If Stalin had liked The Hammer or liked my book, I would have been, you know what? Let's not rush to judgment.
Yeah, I actually, The Rock's last few career choices I have not agreed with, because I do think he's really charismatic, and when you think
he has chops.
He just should have been an actor.
Yeah,
he can act, and he actually.
Well, what happens? I mean, look, it happened.
They've cut him a big check.
It happened to Stallone with Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. It happened with Vin Diesel on like his daddy daycare kind of thing. Like what? Who decides that these guys? It happened in Kindergarten Cop.
Right.
It's not.
I like Kindergarten Cop though.
All right, but the point is this: nobody in 1972 would have said to John Wayne, "Hey, we need you to do a schmaltzy feel-good kids movie." Like he would have been like, "Are you kidding?"
Or Clint Eastwood's another great example.
I'm Rooster Cogburn. I don't do that crap. Or, no one would have said that to whoever the big chiseled leading man of the day. Nobody would have said that to Clark Gable.
I wish we had The Rock here.
Stupid kids movie.
Well, like, hey Rock, here are the three roles you need to play. You need to be a detective who operates by his own rules.
Ooh, that's a twist.
You have to be the guy who's been wrongly accused from something and has to go find whoever actually did the crime, which he apparently did in Faster.
Well, he was the wheel man in the crime, but he wasn't in on the bank heist.
Or you have to do like the Western type. You're the sheriff in 1880.
Right.
Those are the three roles for you, and don't deviate from those three.
It's also funny too. They did this a little bit in The Town, but they did it a ton in Faster, which is he was a great wheelman. So it was like at a certain point he eludes the cop car that's chasing him by backing down the alley at 60 miles an hour and then pulling a 180.
Yeah.
And then at some point in movies, they do that thing where it's like, all right, the chase is over and everyone kind of relaxes and then they're just kind of cruising through town.
Yeah.
And it's like, just because you lost that one, here's all I'm saying.
Nobody's else.
You hit the road, get one LAPD guy on your ass, shake him, and see if the cops just sort of give up. There's something called a helicopter,
is there anybody
and other guys with radios, right?
How many people can actually drive backwards like that? I mean, it seems like something you need 10 years of training to learn how to do.
Great Mater from the Speed McQueen, from the whatever the Pixar movie was that my kid loves so much.
But the only thing I don't understand,
he drives backwards.
The Rock and these guys, like, you need to create a franchise where you're the detective. Like, that's what Clint Eastwood did so well with Dirty Harry.
Harry Callahan.
If I was an action star, I would just be looking at all the different ways to be a detective who operates by his own rules. That's the blueprint.
Duke Lacrosse.
Oh, I meant to tell you this. I was in L.A. in one of the long places with stores and stuff, and somebody was wearing a Duke Lacrosse T-shirt.
Wow.
It's a strong statement. I mean, everyone was exonerated, but still.
I know.
He was talking to a girl, and then she walked away, and I was like,
probably knew something.
Should have worn the James Madison T-shirt.
We're throwing a party.
All right, let's do your movie.
My movie. Yeah, I even made a couple of notes this time.
I don't know what this movie is, so I'm excited.
You just brought up Con Air, so I and I need your help on this one because I've just thought about it last night, knowing I was coming in. I'm beating it out, I'm just getting the beats of the film. But
Before you do this, we should mention that the first one, you came on my podcast, I think, in the summer of 2007.
Mm-hmm.
The first film that you pitched was Pedophile, which we lost the clip, and then you had to pitch it again.
Sure.
And now what city is it where they're doing the real life Pedophile?
I don't know.
They ripped you off. It was like in Florida or some island. They're putting all the pedophiles on. It's a direct ripoff of your pitch. You can Google this and you'll find it.
I am a modern day Nostradamus because many of my ideas that I've had over the years have come to fruition, and maybe this one will.
My best one was I had this whole thing in a column right after Tiger Woods about the BlackBerry Infidel, which was a BlackBerry that it looked like a normal BlackBerry and all your emails were in there, but if you put in a special password, it unleashed all the texts and emails from the people you were cheating on your wife with.
And
now they actually have it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I had an idea, by the way, for the cheater's condom that had a big birthmark attached to the condom.
What do you mean?
Well, here's the deal. At a certain point, a couple of cheating tips, as I've said many times. If you're going to cheat, fellas, don't go in with the same preferences in the bed as you do at home with your wife or girlfriend.
Oh, so if it gets back to her.
Yeah, it's like, so if I got caught cheating and I was saying I didn't cheat and it got back to my wife and it's like, what does Adam do? Well, first thing he did, he rubbed my feet for an hour.
Then he put a red ball in his mouth.
He never spoke about himself.
Yeah.
And it's like my wife would go, nah, different dude. So don't do the move, because whatever your move is that your wife knows about, don't do that move with the new chick because she'll line that up immediately. That's an MO right there. The cheater's condom with the birthmark on it, it comes a certain point. And
so it's like a Michael Jackson thing.
Yeah,
it's like a Michael
Jackson. Especially if you're a big celebrity, at a certain point there's a penis identification that has to take place. And if the girl you're talking about goes, Your Honor, believe me, I know it was Bill Simmons. He had something the shape of Florida on the side of his peckeroo. And then you'd be sitting there going, I don't, honey, no.
Maybe you could get a fake scrotum, too.
Yeah.
He had an oversized left testicle.
He had asymmetry in his scrotum.
Show me, this can stay in. It's a mature audience conversation.
Yeah.
It's quite mature.
I'm just saying the cheater's condom with the birthmark worked into it would be very nice.
I like it. You call it the Jackson.
Yeah. The Jackson.
When the 12-year-old was actually identifying parts of his body, that's when it got a little dicey for Michael.
By the way,
now it's fine.
We should save the government the trouble and the court system the trouble, which is every guy. They do that thing where it's like, all right, when you turn 18, you have to register for the draft, or you have to register. While you're registering, we'll just get a picture of your penis. You know what I mean? Just to have it on file.
Just pull it down for a second.
Yeah, if there's any trouble in the future, we got it on file. It's just there. It's right next to whatever, your driver's license number, whatever. It's just there. We won't sell it to, if you get famous, we won't sell it to TMZ, but it'll just be in your file. And then if anything comes up, some Michael Jackson-like situation, we won't have to drag you in and take new photos of your penis. I'm just saying. All right. This one.
Movie.
The year. New movie. Yeah. The year. I wanted to call it Prison Bus. And then.
Prison Bus?
Prison Bus. Oh. And I was thinking about that Prison Bus. And then I thought, under the slug line, underneath Prison Bus would be honk if you're guilty. But then I thought, you know what? I started thinking about this. I started thinking, what about a movie called Guantanamo?
Oh.
Guantanamo.
Because anytime it comes into a movie, it's going to a good place.
Guantanamo.
Always.
Guantanamo. Now, the year is 2021.
Ooh, futuristic.
Futuristic, but not too far in the future. We have decided in our infinite wisdom to take all the worst terrorists in Guantanamo Bay and we're going to try them on the mainland.
Oh.
We're getting them out of Cuba. We're bringing them into Florida. New York, too sensitive. We're going to bring them into Florida to try them on American soil.
And instead of doing the smart thing and transporting them one at a time, we're going to transport them all at once to save some money.
Right.
I get it.
So they bring them. First, we bring the worst they have from Cuba and from Guantanamo Bay. The dregs. And they bring them into like a holding facility in Florida. Now they've opened a new Supermax. They've opened a new Supermax in Dade County, Florida. And on the prison bus, going to the new Supermax to await trial for the crimes of terrorism are the terrorists, but also Vin Diesel, Danny Trejo, and some of our baddest ass gang members and our baddest ass criminals all on the same bus.
Oh, no.
So, and it's that weird thing that they do this every once in a while where they do that thing where it's like our badass criminals against their badass criminals, what it turns into. So now the world's,
I'll interrupt you for 1 second. I like anything where I'm rooting for bad people.
Yeah, me too.
I like when they flip, like bank robbery movies I always love. I love rooting for people when I shouldn't be rooting for them.
Well, also, it's always cool when our bad guys get turned on and turn on the bad guys. Like in World War II, we actually had guys that were in the mafia working on Nazis who were trying to infiltrate New York and find out information. I like when we take our bad guys and turn them on their bad guys. This is that.
Escape from New York, great example.
Right.
Sent Snake Plissken in on the jet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. He's bad enough to get it done. So
that movie needs to be remade. But
oh my God, does it?
Because now that we have the CGI and all kinds of stuff, goes to another level.
Adrian Barbeau. All right. God. They put him on the bus. They got the worst terrorists on the planet meets the worst killers, gang members, and everything else on the planet. And they're all going to the Supermax in Florida, the brand new opening of Supermax. Well, as they're driving the prison bus down the highway, a C-130 airplane lands, the tailgate opens, and the bus gets on. Well, bin Laden and all these, rich countries that support terrorism have essentially paid off the driver of the bus, paid off the guards, and they're all loading into this airplane. Now, they can't get the airplane out. They can't get it, to Iraq or Iran.
Not enough gas.
Not enough
time
gas.
To refuel.
And we'll scramble F-18s.
Yeah.
Just enough to get back to Cuba.
Oh.
Not Guantanamo Bay. Just back onto Cuban soil, where Castro's brother has now taken over and is very anti-American.
Pedro Castro.
Right. They're now holding almost like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now, they have all of their terrorists on their soil, and there's nothing we can do about it, but we have our ragtag group of our criminals that were also taken with them, and they're going to take out the terrorists.
So a lot of Escape from New York.
A lot of Escape from New York.
A dash of Con Air.
I'd say more. I'd say a heaping scoop of Con Air mixed in there.
Couple issues.
Yeah.
Coming out of the gate, couple issues.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who's the female? Need a female. Is the driver female? Do they take her?
Interesting. Where's the good-looking?
Maybe there's one driver that wasn't in on getting paid off.
Where's the good-looking female?
Because that was a good part of the Con Air. It's like they had the, as you would say, the dusting of rape with that one, the police officer, and it was like, we got to make sure nothing bad happens to her. But it was always kind of lingering over every scene.
Danny Trejo was going to take her out while she was handcuffed.
You want to get that? I think you want to get that element.
Yeah, we do need a female
and
element.
At some point, she's got to take off her jacket.
Yeah, and expose herself. Yeah. We need maybe a guard, but that's very in the bus. That's very Con Air.
Don't you need somebody who he got there was some sort of accident when and he got thrown, and now he's like paralyzed from the waist down, and they can't decide whether to leave him or not? Well, there needs to be good
or he got shot. The problem we have to figure out is the cons, the good cons. In other words, let's just say Vin Diesel, maybe The Rock, for that matter. They have to be in for a crime they didn't commit, kind of thing. Right. And maybe this here's how the movie lights up on Vin Diesel talking through the glass at his beautiful bride. He was accused.
Yeah.
He was thrown in this thing. He's awaiting trial. He's just a passenger on the prison bus going to the Supermax. He's another guy waiting for trial, but he's going to get out. He's got his name cleared.
She was about to give birth.
Right.
And she was in a lot of pain, and he was driving really fast, and he accidentally clipped an old pedestrian.
Vehicular manslaughter.
Yeah, wasn't his fault, though.
No, he was trying to rush her to the hospital.
She was bleeding. She was hemorrhaging.
But the real crux here is you have that good base of everyone talking, that topic of taking the Guantanamo Bay guys, bringing them to American soil and trying them. Then you have that nice element of our criminals. No matter how bad our criminals are, they still won't stand for terrorism.
How do we get in contact with our guys?
How do the good guys, meaning like John Cusack's character?
How does the John Cusack character
get
in contact with the Vin Diesel vehicular manslaughter character?
Well, there's got to be some of
Internet?
The Rock worked into this too. Did we talk about that?
No, I like where you're going, though.
We need to get, Cuba's an island.
Yeah.
Just like the Rock was, so we need to get one of our guys on that rock, on that island, who's the eyes and ears reporting back. And of course, then there's that kind of thing where the American government is like, let's just call in an airstrike and toast them all, but it's not so fast.
I've had it with Cuba.
Right. I think our criminals, and again, it's that thing, same thing in Con Air where they're going, he's a criminal. Those are criminals. Those guys don't, who cares about those guys? There's now been so many movies made that there's no way to make a new movie. You just can make movies from bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like the aforementioned P. Diddy. He doesn't write new songs. He takes a little Kashmir from Led Zeppelin and puts some lyrics over.
So you're almost sampling.
Yeah, we're sampling 8 good movies. We're taking all the best parts from The Rock and Con Air and a lot of the
Few
same
Good Men,
actors.
just a tiny bit of a Few Good Men
woven in, and it's all in there. But just that part. First off, just calling it Guantanamo.
I like it.
I think
in the you have to have the line underneath.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some way to work pros and cons into that line. I don't know how you're going to do it, but
yeah. Our cons.
The pros and cons of staying safe.
These cons are pros.
Something.
Yeah. Something like that. But again, 2021, just a few years.
Why is it 2021 again? Just because you like futuristic?
I like to go just a little bit into the future because you can still have all the same stuff, like the same bus and the same plane and stuff, but things can change a little bit. Female president, Madam President.
Oh.
You do that thing. You know what I mean?
I'd even go female black president.
Black, female.
That makes it feel really futuristic.
Yeah. Wanda Sykes is Madam President. No, but super progressive. You know what I mean? Madam, female president. Yeah. Black, female president in a wheelchair.
Oh.
Yeah, handy-capable.
Handicapped black female president.
Wearing a yarmulke. Madam President, black Madam President.
Very progressive.
Yeah, super progressive.
Did you ever think about how when they made all the futuristic movies and the TV shows in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, nobody accounted for computers at all?
Right.
It was always the thing they were fixated on was that we would somehow be able to fly instead of use cars.
Right.
That was the big thing.
Yeah.
Nobody ever thought no, we're all gonna have computers and we're just gonna be able to communicate with each other in these really advanced ways.
Right.
Never dawned on one person.
No.
The closest was, I think, Total Recall.
Right. Yeah, and the way they would communicate, by the way, there was no cell phone. There was some kind of walkie-talkie thing.
Yeah.
But there was never no one ever dialed. Like the notion of taking that thing that was hardwired to your kitchen wall and taking it out into the street would have been insane.
Because Total Recall basically foreshadowed Skype.
And 3 boobies.
He had the and 3 boobed women.
Yeah.
Which we haven't seen yet. But he had the plasma, and he could talk to people on the plasma.
Well, there was that is a weird technological thing because, all those movies and all those secret agent movies and all that stuff from the 60s and 70s, whenever the main man would chime in, his face would pop up like on the screen, and he'd be like, Agent Q, and he'd be sitting there at his desk, and it was a big deal. And it was this crazy pipe dream we had for a million years. Like, you can look at the person you're talking to. It's insane. And like I said, every futuristic movie had that. The person would come up, and then somewhere in like 2002, somebody actually figured it out and said, hey, you can do a thing where you hook something onto your computer and you can look at the person you're talking to, and collectively as a nation we went, no thanks.
We're good.
Something we've been talking about for 40 years, and like, wow, look at the future. And then somebody said, you want to look at your grandma when you're talking to her? And like, no, I'm cool.
Yeah, we thought, because we have so much family back east, we thought that would be something we did all the time. Got old after like 3 times.
Why do you need to see the guy's mouth moving?
You know what your family looks like.
I do. I try to forget, actually. I mean, I certainly don't need to see. I can. It's not like I'm talking to my dad on the phone going, who are you? Who is this? Like Face Off. Come on. Oh, yeah? Your name is Jim Carolla? Uh-huh. What part of Cherry Hill, New Jersey did we live in 1971? I gotcha. Yeah. You know, I was like, I assume it's him. And then maybe he's in his underpants or sitting around. Like, maybe he doesn't want to be seen.
I do think the one technological advancement that's been pretty amazing has been Twitter.
Yeah, that's
because the way news can process now, and especially like in sports with like trades and like this week Carmelo Anthony, all the trade rumors, and reporters are tweeting stuff and they don't even know if they're just saying I heard this. Right. It's not even reporting anymore. It's I heard this rumor. Somebody told me this might happen. Now they're discussing this. It's just constant.
But it like tweeting or podcasting, whatever, blogs, whatever. I do feel like it's really cool, but there's a double-edged sword to it, which is I don't know.
You don't want to get immersed in it.
If you watched Inside the NFL,
of course I did
last week, but everybody and their brother has just a video show that they stream on the internet about sports show. I mean, everybody is now a talent. Everyone's a comedian. Everyone's an author.
Everyone needs an audience.
Everyone needs an audience. Wherever you are, in your basement, in Philly, I don't care how fat you are, how dumb you are, how unfunny you are. Boom. You set up a camera and a tripod, pow.
Or a Twitter account.
Like you're up. And it's insane. I mean, it's insane. Like we talked about, you were doing your podcast 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I mean, I didn't even know what a podcast was. Like, I don't know how many other people were doing it. There wasn't anybody doing it. Even when I started,
I remember
2 years
explaining
ago,
it to you.
There wasn't anybody doing it.
You got it right away, though, because when I explained it to her, like, we're just going to talk and we're going to tape it.
Yeah.
And then you were like, people can listen to it on the computer? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what time? Can we talk about pedophile?
Well, I like the sound of my own voice.
Yeah,
You're on
good.
the way home from my radio show. Yeah. And, I like hanging out. So what the hell?
It's going to a good place. And I think more and more people have gotten the hang of the technology. Like, I know, like, your numbers have gone up. My numbers have gone up. I was amazed this last book tour because I consider myself a writer who also is a mediocre podcast host. And I had people would say, I'm signing a book, and they're like, hey, man, love the podcast. Like, they didn't even mention the column.
Yeah, it is
like,
weird.
Wow. It's just weird to me that people listen to it. It's weird that they listen to it when they're working out or when they're in the car or in class. People listen to it in class.
Well, I must say that I brought you a copy of my audio book.
Oh, yeah.
50 Years
Yeah,
Wall
it's basically the same thing.
I got to say, I recently have downloaded I downloaded my book on iTunes. My wife did. Paid $18 for it. I was like, are you nuts? I could have got that thing for free. It's me. First off, I could just say it out loud. But it's 6 hours and 40 minutes. And a lot of these other books, I downloaded Freakonomics. And it's like 4 hours or whatever. And you put it in your iPod, and then you go about your day. Like you walk your dog and you do whatever, you plug it in your car thing.
Yeah.
Or, like for instance, you're going on a road trip and you're driving, cross country or driving to Texas or something like that. Load up a bunch of podcasts that you like, or load up a bunch of audio books that you like. Load up
I think
Bill's
people
book.
are doing that now.
And now it's like the 6.5 hour drive's not so bad. You're getting through it.
I listened to, I was flying somewhere and I listened to the podcast you did with Jeff Ross and Cousin Sal, which was really like, the three of you, I just thought it like nailed the three of you and what it's like to hang out with you guys. But it really goes by fast. If it's a good podcast.
Yeah, I know. And
all of a sudden you look up, the stewardess like, you got to turn that off. I'm like, what? And then you realize 48 minutes just went by.
Yeah. You don't have an audio version of your book, do you?
No, I didn't do that. My book was too freaking long.
I was going to say.
It would like 20 hours.
My book is 6 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, mine would have been 20, I think.
My book's 270 pages. Yours would have been like 19 hours.
But where do you think radio is going? Because, as we've talked about multiple times, I don't know if we've talked about it on a podcast, but once it gets in the cars, and we're getting there.
Right.
When that little navigation, that little round button you have in your car where you can check navigation, or you can change the climate in your car, or you can check the radio. Once podcasts are on there and it's like 2 clicks and all of a sudden I'm listening to you.
Right.
I really think radio is in trouble. And other than like live sporting events, I don't know why somebody would want to listen to a free radio station and sit through commercials if you could just get on-demand radio shows.
It's insane. I should tell you now about. I can talk about it now, which is funny.
What are you talking about? You've never hide stuff from me.
I had this thing where somebody said to me, one of the guys in the San Francisco radio station, like I don't know, I think it was Live 105 or some station like that, a pretty big station in the San Francisco area, like a K-Rock out here version of in San Francisco. And the guy flew out, he met with me, and he wanted to know if I want to do mornings in San Francisco. And from here.
I thought you turned this down.
I did turn it down.
Okay.
And the money was like, it was good. It was like $500,000. And it was like.
I thought you were going to say 3 bundles.
Oh, how many bundles? Because I do money in piles.
How much is that?
It was like 8 bundles. We didn't even discuss a price. I just knew it was in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And, my podcast is going well, and we're making money, and I just said, you know what, thanks, but no thanks. We're just going to stay here and kind of stay the course with the podcast. And so they said, all right. And what they ended up doing is they ended up syndicating my old friend Kevin and Bean out here from Los Angeles over there. And so the thing that was funny is about 2 months ago, I was out there and I was playing Cobb's in San Francisco, and I got up Friday morning to go do the radio show to promote the event, to promote the comedy show. And I walked in, and the program director who I'd met with said, "Oh, hey, Adam, hey, here we go." And then he said, since you passed on the job, we're going to syndicate Kevin and Bean in here starting on January 1st. This was, December 15th. And I said, yeah, all right. And he said, don't say anything. And I said, all right. And I said, who's he going to replace? And he's going to replace the guy who's in the studio waiting for you right now to do the interview. And I said, oh, all right. Well, that's uncomfortable, but does he know? And they said, yeah, he knows. And so I went in there, and it's just one radio guy to the next because I lost my morning show.
Right.
And radio guys are dropping like flies everywhere, and there's syndication. All the local guys are getting blown out. And radio guys, I'm lucky in that I went out and wrote a book, did stand-up, did a podcast. Most radio guys don't have anything to fall back on.
Yeah.
And especially for the kind of money they're getting. So I was speaking to the guy, and I was like, yeah, it's tough. And he's like, yeah, especially around the holidays, a little depressing. And we did our interview. And then when I was done with the interview, the program director said, hey, you think you could cut some liners for when Kevin and Bean come on the air? And I said,
no.
Yeah, I guess I could.
The other guy was still there?
And the other guy was still there, and he's like, let's just go into that studio. And he hands me a piece of paper, and the piece of paper is like, hey, I'm Adam Carolla. Listen to the best radio in San Francisco. Kevin and Bean on Live 105.
Oh, God.
Starting this year. Fine. There's a new sheriff in town. Kevin and Bean, Live 105. And I'm like, where do you want me to do this? He's like, why don't you just go back into the studio? That guy can run the board for you. And I was like, you don't have some sort of B studio, some auxiliary studio? I guess. Why? I was like, weird going in there explaining that. I mean, what if the guy was going to be divorced and I was in there doing a commercial for the new husband who was marrying the old lady?
It's
like,
awful. It's actually mirrors what's happened with newspapers.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like just things change, and eventually something that we grew up with doesn't make as much sense as it did.
Well, ultimately, it's like this. What part of radio do you like?
I like the part where there's no commercials.
I like the part where there's no commercials. I like the part where I get to hear the voice of the guy whose opinion I agree with talking.
Yeah.
All right. So how do we get that? Well, it doesn't matter. As long as it's going out of his mouth and into my ears, whether it's earbuds, a computer, or a car radio, either way, how does Bill Simmons' voice, how's Adam Carolla's voice get into my head? That's all I'm interested in. And again, not sitting through super long chunks of commercials would be helpful. And that's where we're heading. I mean, it happened in music 5-10 years ago. Who sits around and listens to a radio station hoping? You think Jimmy Kimmel sits around hoping Stuck With You by Huey Lewis comes on the radio station? Or do you think he just cues it up in his iPod?
Well, the interesting part, and there's so many podcasts now, is which ones end up standing out, and because every podcast has a niche,
right?
And it's like I love classic cars. Oh, right. There's a classic car podcast, and it's not like blogs where you can read 30 blogs in an hour. Podcasts, could be 40 minutes.
Right.
Only so many minutes in a day. You're not going to listen to more than 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So that part's interesting to me. Like, I do wonder if everybody's audience is just going to eventually dilute.
Well, there is it's that thing of, it's like this. It's something I've always thought was bizarre, like late night television. Johnny Carson at one point in 1976 or something had like 17.5 million listeners.
9 channels.
And that's when there was 200 million people in this country instead of 300 million people. Yeah. So there was like 30% less people in this country, and he's still getting 7. And then when you talk about these shows, like you talk about a show like Mad Men, Mad Men, all the Emmys and all the awards and all the accolades. Mad Men gets like a 1.3 or 5 or something. When me and Dr. Drew used to be on late night on MTV, we used to get that every night. Like it's insane how everything is just getting,
Did you see Nightline beat Leno and Letterman?
Yeah, I heard
weeks ago.
Oops, my glasses. Yeah.
And it didn't even. It's not like the Nightline ratings have gone through the roof. It's everybody kind of dropped down to where they were.
Right.
And I really am. Late night is fascinating to me, and I had Bill Carter on last month talking about where this is going, and I really think it's headed toward half-hour shows.
Oh, really?
I do. I think that Stuart Colbert model is where it's going to go.
It is interesting.
If you look at the ratings, all these shows, they tail off in the second half. Like, we watch Jimmy's show, and second half of the show is when they bring out the
band,
the fifth lead on Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah, they do.
Or some band or some comic, and it's like people have already moved on to whatever the best part of another show is.
It's physically getting late. Like at that point too. Like people are turning in. They're drunk and they're turning in.
I think that Tosh show.
Tosh 2.0?
Tosh.0.
Oh, it's a Tosh.0.
It's 22 minutes.
Right.
And you finish it, and it feels like the right length. If anything, it could have been about 10 minutes longer.
Right.
I think Daily Show's like that too, but it almost seems like that is now the model, where it's like you want to leave people leaving a little bit, which I'm glad we're talking about this because we're on like the 3rd hour of this podcast.
Oh, really? Well, the point is this. Yes, the pie gets cut into thinner pieces.
Yeah.
And yes, anyone and their mother and brothers is capable of starting a podcast, but the question is do people want to hear it?
Yeah.
And that's really the point.
It does seem like technology in general, like you were seeing with documentaries, like last year was the best documentary year ever. And part of the reason is because cameras are cheaper It's easier to make them. It's
Right.
easier for some 23-year-old guy to go out there and come up with his idea and do it. And now there's like a boom with that. And I think when the podcast equipment gets easier, it's going to be easier for people to make them. But I think it's going to be hard for people to stand out. I really do.
Well, again, the best chance you have at success is just being good. I mean,
It's true. It's a meritocracy.
yeah, and that's the point.
Well, the one thing with you that's been interesting, because we always wanted you to do stand-up forever and ever, and you never wanted to do it.
Right.
And now you've done this stand-up thing where it's cool how you do. You have a projector.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of play off the projector. You have these rants that, what are they, like 12, 15 minutes?
Yeah,
And August said you have like 12 hours of rants now ready to go.
probably.
And you can go to these cities and just bang out 90 minutes of material anywhere you go.
Yes, that is true. Yeah,
I don't think comedians, it seems like comedians usually hone like a 45-minute set and then they just travel around and do that set.
Yeah, well, that's what they do, and what we do is I don't have a actual set. I just have modular stories, and so what we do is we go, all right, we're going back to Irvine to do the improv in Irvine, and then I say to Mike, what did we do last time we were at the Irvine Improv? And he said,
And
you
then
did
Mike
this.
says, Donnie didn't write it down.
And
Donnie,
then-
why didn't you write it down?
And then we get in a big argument
Yeah.
about it. But eventually I find out what I did last time. I was at Cobb's in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then I go, all right, well, this time we'll mix it up and plug in other stuff.
You say, did I do the one about when I watch internet porn and then it goes back to the main menu and there's a picture of my kid staring at me?
Yeah. My wife
That's one of my
knows
favorites
what
ever.
She knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
She knows.
They're judging you.
I'll show it to you. There's a lot of judgment going on there. A lot.
That was one of my favorites. I walked in on that. I did a stop by on your San Fran thing. You didn't even know I was coming on.
No.
And I walked right in the middle of that, and there's 400 people laughing hysterically. There's a picture of your kids up. You're talking about porn. I'm like, what's going on right now?
Yeah, Bill came out dressed to the nines on the stage. Do you know at that show later on a woman was thrown out?
I heard you had like a weird stalker.
And arrested, and her boyfriend couldn't do anything about it. Like they dragged her out, and the cops threw her in the back of a cop car and tackled her.
Do you have
out.
a rider when you go in these things? Because some people have like these crazy riders where it's like, I need a pound of gummy bears and I need 24 Coors Lights.
Please try.
I need lobster.
Yeah. Notice how Bill sounds black when he.
Wait, I
comes
don't know
in
why
the
I'm sounding
rider voice.
black. I didn't mean to.
Yes, no, sound black because I've talked to a few club owners.
Yeah.
And
Monique was the worst one, right?
Monique is bad, but the worst is Eddie Griffin.
Eddie Griffin?
Eddie Griffin needs, and by the way, I'm so dumb. Like, I never did this before. So I'd say to, like, Mike August, the guy who's booking it.
Can you make sure they have 6 beers?
I'd go, like, look, if they can have a cup of coffee backstage and, like, some carrot sticks, that would be awesome. But if they get pissed off, don't push it. You know, like, I don't want to get them angry.
You feel bad because it's kind of a dick move.
Yeah, look, what happens is you come from the airport. Sometimes you're a little bit tired. A cup of coffee, especially if you're going to be on stage for an hour and a half. Sometimes you haven't eaten. A cup of coffee, a little vegetable platter, and a Miller Lite. You'll be a new man when you go out on stage. And the club has it all there. They have coffee, they have food, they have whatever. Mike always goes there and just eats them to death with all the crappy desserts and chicken wings and stuff he has sent back to the room. He probably tells them I want it, and then he eats it. But the point is I was talking to one of the club owner from San Jose, and it's like, I said, how does it work? People have rides? Like, oh, man. Eddie Griffin has to have a brand new pair of white Nike high tops for every show. White Nike high tops.
What?
He needs to be picked up from the airport in a limousine. Like, I don't need a limousine. Any car picking me up is fine.
You're fine with like a Pinto.
It doesn't matter. I'll ride in the back. The limousine has to be black. It cannot be a white limousine. Like Monique. By the way, Monique and Roseanne Barr by the way.
Yeah.
You know, Monique was like, she needed this much Cristal champagne and enough stuff and scented candles and enough for the posse. And it's like, first off, those backstage, those green rooms, they got
they're not
the
nice.
scariest sofas on the planet.
Yeah.
But the show starts at 8. I walk in at 8. I chug a Miller Lite and walk out on stage and then split, basically. Like, I don't know what are all the scented candles going on. Roseanne needed Starbucks, Kona fresh ground coffee, blah, 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 served at this temperature. But
do you just lose your mind when you're a celebrity? I mean, it almost feels like yeah, I look at Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Her and Brad Pitt have, 7 houses?
Mm-hmm.
They just shepherd their kids from house to house.
They just adopted Eddie Griffin, by the way. I didn't know if you know that.
You talk to any child psychologist, and they always say, kids need continuity. They need structure. And Angelina Jolie's like, we're going to New Orleans this week.
Let's break it down, though. You are a celebrity. You are Monique. You are Roseanne, Eddie Griffin, whatever. You're Angelina Jolie. You're a celebrity. Because of what? Especially if you're a comedian. Trauma. I mean, Monique got, molested by her brother, whatever it was. I remember the Barbara Walters special. The point is there's trauma in your life. So now you have all this trauma, poverty, abuse, whatever. You know, Angelina Jolie was nuts growing up, came from a nutty, chaotic family with no, dad around.
Little run with heroin.
Yeah, little bout. Again, Roseanne Barr. Jesus Christ, right? Yeah. So now you have all these people that are either incest survivors and clinically insane, all that stuff. Next thing you know, they're richer than hell, and they can talk to anyone however they want to talk to them and ask for anything they want to ask for. So instead of going into the place with my weird low self-esteem, don't ask for 2 cups of coffee, I don't want to get yelled at, they go in with the exact opposite, which is, I want champagne and I don't even drink. I just want to see you go get it. You know what I mean? Think about the overcompensation. Think about working with Roseanne. Well, by the way, let me say this, and I'll be super clear on this, and I've done it many times. I announced with Pauly Shore in the late 80s, early 90s, no talent, not going anywhere. I announced it with Tom Green. And I like Tom Green, but when Tom Green was flying high and on top of the world, Freddie got fingered. I saw that movie and I said, not that funny. Don't expect a long Steve Martin-esque run with Tom Green. Yeah. I announced it, Jimmy Kimmel, if you're listening, with the President of the United States of America way back in the day when I said, these are novelty, one-hit wonder band. She's Lump. She's a little Peaches song. I said, no one's going to hear of these guys 5 years. Oh, no. They got legs. Announced Roseanne. I said to anyone who would listen, not that funny. Right place, right time, great show, or good show. Captured the imagination of America, but will not hear from her again. And the reason we'll not hear from her again, not that funny. Not that good. And she's had a bunch of talk shows and a bunch of this
the right
and a bunch
place,
of
right
that.
Time thing.
It's been a good 10 years since Roseanne has made anyone laugh.
15.
15 years. You'll not hear from her again. A lot of defenders. A lot of oh man, her stand-up. Oh man, that show. Oh man. All right, defenders. It's been 15 years. What's going on? She's tried a bunch of shows, tried a bunch of daytime shows, cooking shows, writing books. Where's the hilarity? Find me the hilarity. And I like her. She's nuts and everything. But you know what? Nothing in the tank. Not nearly as funny as people made her out to be. And she should take her billions of dollars and just shut up. And everyone wants to know, hey, when's Roseanne coming back? Hey, when's Tom Green coming back? Hey, when's Pauly Shore coming back?
Wants to know when Tom Green's coming back.
No one's Hey, when are these guys coming back? Well, you know what the answer is? Never. And why?
Talent rises to the occasion.
Not enough there. Not enough in the tank. I know people think I'm a heretic for my Roseanne stuff. Nah.
This has been a sobering moment for Ian Ziering. You know Gabrielle Carteris turned 50 last week?
I know.
Yeah.
I sent her a card.
We're just old.
I know. When
you're closer to 50 than 40.
I know. It's insane. And you want to know old and surreal? when I've doing a sitcom for pilot for NBC a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That had this moment where this acting coach said, "Hey, we'll get together and we'll get all the people in my acting class and they'll read your script in front of you and you can listen and, hear the jokes and see how it plays. It's good for them. It'll be good for you. It'll be good for the script." And I was like, "Oh, okay, awesome." And I showed up one night, and I walked into the class, and there's like 30 people, like struggling actors, all sitting around the class. And I was like, "All right, so who's going to play Adam's character, and who's going to play his wife?" Ian Ziering playing me in the class. And I was just sitting there, I went to screaming at him, "You don't need I should be playing you, man, and we should be down at the Peach Pit." Like,
you have your run, and then it goes.
If
the one thing you didn't do in your book,
that doesn't happen with Steve Martin.
No, well, because he's good and he figures out ways to reinvent himself.
There you go.
The one thing you didn't do in your book, I felt, you glossed over when good things started happening to you.
Yeah.
You told the whole story about, Jimmy, you were Jimmy's boxing trainer.
Yeah.
And Jimmy decided you were funny and you had to come up with a character.
Right.
And at that point you would have, sold your liver to get one shot.
Yeah. Well,
you come up with the one character in the Kevin and Bean show.
Mr. Burchell.
And it was a hit.
Right.
And then you're like, and then everything else happened.
And the rest
it's
is
like, all right, I could have had 3 more pages there.
Can I tell you this? As someone who's written a book and many successful books, I turned in everything to my editor, and my editor said, "We should get rid of the Why I Hate LA chapter, and we should get rid of this chapter." It was fat. It had a bunch of extra stuff, and she's editing. And she said, "Get rid of the About the Author chapter." And I said, "I think people like at the beginning of a book to hear a little bit about the person that's writing it, And she's like, "Well, I just nix the whole chapter and get into the topics." And I said, "What if I take the About the Author chapter and instead of 17 pages, I'll get it down to 7 pages or 5 pages and I'll trim the whole thing down?" And she's like, "Well, I guess if it was short and tight and we just kind of got into it and then we could get into the book, that'd be all right." So I truncated the whole thing.
I wish you had called me before you made this decision.
So you could have yelled at her?
I would have yelled at you.
Oh, what would you have said?
I would trust your instincts over somebody else's. The
understand?
world is littered with people who give other people advice who...
I know, but you understand.
You know yourself better than the editor does.
My first book.
I know, but it's...
I'm
your instincts were right, though. That chapter set up everything you're about to read, and a lot of people who didn't read it didn't know you. I mean, a lot of people reading it didn't know you.
Right.
And it's like, well, why am I reading a book from this person? Like my wife's father, who loved your book inexplicably because he's like 75, that chapter needed to be in there for him.
Well, but again, it's also weird, speaking of the writer and low self-esteem and where I come from like a very low self-esteem family.
Right.
And so when someone is saying to me, 18 pages about you feels like a lot, I'm not going to go, "Are you kidding? It should have been 30. Like all of a sudden I just start getting self-conscious. Like when someone literally says, "You talked about yourself like it was way too much."
Yeah.
I immediately go,
you're right.
Right. Sorry, I'll reel in.
Well, the good news is it left enough for the next book.
Yes, and I didn't nix it all together.
No.
At least I had the instinct to go, I'll tighten it up, and I'll put other...
So you want to plug your audiobook?
Oh, yeah. Well, I brought it really just to give it to you because you said your wife was...
Well, it's out. So your book's still out.
Your
podcast is on iTunes and at AdamCarolla.com.
Yeah, and we do it daily, and we do 90 minutes every day. And
you're traveling for your comedy shows?
Yeah, you can go
San Francisco, L.A., all different cities.
You go to AdamCarolla.com. You can find the dates and the books on iTunes if you want to listen to the audiobook, or you can buy it. But, yeah, people enjoy the book, so I would say you get it and enjoy it yourself.
It made me laugh.
Thanks, Bill Simmons.
Adam Carolla. So we picked all the favorites this week?
Let's see.
New England, Pittsburgh.
New England for sure. Pittsburgh, although they're not really favorites.
I picked Seattle over Chicago.
And I'll take Seattle with you.
All right,
because
I
think
and Atlanta.
And Atlanta. I just think Chicago's not that good.
And you promised not to wager this weekend.
No, I don't want to screw things up.
Okay, good.
Oh,
That's noble of you.
I called our friend Kevin Henge about 3 weeks ago. And I said, Pats, favored to win the Super Bowl. What are the odds? And he said,
and he begged you not to even follow through.
I said, here's the deal. I'll either put $1,000 on the Pats to win the Super Bowl right now, or you can get together with all your Pats fans and you can raise $1,100 and give it to me. And I'm not saying you need to pay.
I would have immediately thrown in at least $300.
That'd be the best $300 you ever spent.
Oh yeah,
right?
I would have absolutely bought.
I was trying to extort him. I was like, literally, go shake the can in front of all your Pats buddies. It'll be the best money.
We would have raised the money.
Yeah.
You've still been blamed in some circles for Super Bowl 42 against the Giants.
Thank you.
Adam Carolla, thanks for coming up.
Good times.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.